to Germany, to Sweden, to Ukraine and Romania. So it will be, I'm sure, a very, very lively and interesting panel. So I would like to invite Marta to take the floor and to open the debate for 5 minutes, not more.
Thank you very much, first of all, for the invitation, and thank you for the first presentations. I would like maybe to go over the Malaga case, which was very interesting, to say that in the last years we have seen the creative industries in a number of different ways for local development, to attract talents, creative communities, innovation. And today the tourism issue is probably one of the most important ones, because the creative industries are becoming very much attractive also for tourists, for new kinds of tourists interested in creative experiences, in local experiences. And so creative industries are becoming really very central also in place branding strategies. And this is very interesting, and new programs, new calls also from European Union, from regional governments are coming to match more and more tourism and the creative industries. And I think that this is a very interesting perspective on a double level. On a level, first level of attracting tourists in creative regions, so with place branding strategies, event strategies, but also there is a very interesting level in fostering the creative industries through tourism and promoting tourism innovation through the creative industries, working more on a B2B level, so where really the creative industries can be a support industry for the tourism industry, providing goods, providing innovation in services, such as, I think, for example, at the world of hostels, which were really bad in the past, and now design is helping very much also in innovating tourist services. And with regard to Italy, I think that a good example of this interaction is very much Milan, which is the city in which I teach and live, and what they did with design, so design-based events, but also a very strong design community, creating innovation, a very strong university center for design studies and design innovation. And so I think that to achieve sustainability in tourism, but also in local development through the creative industries, we should put together all these pieces. So sustainable tourism, creative communities, but also good development policies, and also education, which is a central point both for both industries.
Thank you very much, Marta, for beginning our discussion. Indeed, I think there are many common points between the need to have sustainable tourism, not only in Spain but also in Italy, a very desired destination. And I found very interesting your remark, Julio. We need to have not only happy tourists but also happy residents. Indeed, it's a very good remark indeed, and we have to think at residents as well.
May I add just one short point? This is very true, and I think that when we grow tourist development as a mono economy, this is really bad. And so matching together creative industries and tourism, we are already diversificating the local economy, so this is a good starting point for sustainable development.
And to be creative, maybe also in protecting the daily life of residents, not only promoting tourism. Thank you very much, Marta. So we'll move on now to Germany, and Katja Hermes is global head of projects at Sound Diplomacy. So I've seen on the wiki, that Sound Diplomacy, it's London, Barcelona, Berlin-based music agency, founded in 2013, and you are director since 2013. And I'm sure it will be very interesting to know more about this based music agency. So you have the floor.
Hello, thanks again for the invitation. Sound diplomacy, I'm going to show you a video of what we do. Basically, we're a consultancy working with cities on strategies of cities and regions and governments, how you can implement music in the city or regional development, and how you can foster and enhance the music that you have and give value to a place. It's also related to sustainable growth in the city, and also has a lot to do with tourism, city marketing, branding, but also making the people that live in a place happy. And that music is kind of the tool to combine all this. And yeah, I would like to show you this video, and then I just explain it shortly afterwards.
Supporting your music economy is easier than you think. Sound Diplomacy's step-by-step guide will help you understand what it takes. Step 1. Recognize your economy. Take a musical arts venue and count the number of jobs and skills involved. There are many more jobs involved with the music economy than it might appear at first. It takes a wide variety of skills to create a thriving music ecosystem to support musicians. Then, look at all the jobs and issues related to a venue, from transport links and parking costs, to tax and business rates, to government attitudes, public utilities, and the role of music in education. And this is just one part of your music ecosystem. Look at all the others. Step 2. Recognize your ecology. Find out what you have and map it. Music is linked to everything. Just think about it. Step 3. Measure, evaluate, assess. How is this done? Grassroots first, but everything is important. Everything has value, so count it. How much could it be worth? Step 4. Celebrate what you have. Once you know what you have, show off through showcases, festivals, food and drink, one-off performances, heritage, tourism, networking opportunities, and more. You'll make more friends, support culture, and increase revenues. Step 5. Remember, music must support everyone across all genres. You have amazing musicians. It is all about them. If they are not happy, start over. Step 6. Review, repeat, assess. And to learn more, talk to us. Sound Diplomacy. Get more out of music.
Yeah, so this is how to show that music gives a place a place a bigger value when you count it and you assess what you have. And out of this, you can create strategies for your place in your city. So what we do, we work with a couple of cities all over the world. We started with the city of London. London had the problem that a lot of clubs closed there, and that it got less attractive for people to come. It's still a big tourism asset, but it got less attractive in terms of culture and seeing London as a vibrant place. So they installed, the mayor of London installed a night mayor that takes care of the clubs and the nighttime economy in London, and we were helping them to set that up and wrote the policies. We work with other cities like Vancouver in Canada, Brisbane in Australia, Cardiff, Lausanne, and we're starting in the US now as well, and we write proper strategies like for the cities, how to support this music economy and ecology in a place. And it's like a strategic plan with action plans. So how can you support your music community, but also how can you support tourism? How can you support your ecosystem that is connected to music, that is obviously involving tourism, other economic factors. Transport, for example, is important in a music place because night transport is very much important to for the residents and to access places. So so our plans are basically about this. This is the one part, and the other one is we're also working with the United Nations in Cuba, and wrote like a strategy how they can support the music export over there. So it's also very much related to how can you make more value and stronger economy through music. How does music export work in a place, in a country or a region or a smaller community? And our goal is to support and let people or let cities and regions understand that there's music is everywhere. It's like in even tiny places you have music, and this is a very, very interesting tool to tell a story about your place, to bring people that maybe wouldn't come, and also to talking about sustainability again, to diversify your offer, what you have. And often it's not really looked into that like deeply enough. You say like there's creative and creative industries and culture, but yeah, the deeper you look, the more you find what you have in a city and place and how you can promote it and support it.
Thank you very much, Katja, in a panel about creativity, very creative interventions. So Katja argued that music has the power not only to inspire us, not only to produce pleasure, but also to produce economic growth. Certainly, it is a case. So we'll continue now with a Swedish experience in the field of food and gastronomy. Could we consider that food and gastronomy is part of this very heterogeneous sector of cultural and creative industries?
Actually, that is the profound base of it, I would say, because we all need to eat every day. And one of the interesting things, exactly as the first speaker was saying, if we want to understand and accept other cultures, then we need to know about them. Because otherwise they are framed away from something and we don't come close to it. And for getting acceptance for that, we need to know them. And that's why Sweden, for example, we are very fortunate in that way, I would say, because we are very multicultural. Even though we are in the cold north, we have had a lot of immigrants, for example, that is diversifying our country in a very good way. And that is also why creative industry is pretty strong in Sweden. First of all, if we speak out from tourism, of course gastronomy is very important. But for building up that, you also need to have, like we were saying before, a sustainable destination. And in Sweden we have been working with this for a very long time, because we are actually, one of our biggest assets is our nature. And we want people, when they come to our touristic destinations, that they come out to the nature. And then of course you need to preserve the nature to have it in that way. But if we go back to, I will take in big steps, how actually creative industry started up from one place, why it is so important, and how it actually affects all people. And it's also affecting all the world, not only in Europe. That's why I will take some Swedish examples of creative industries. For example, when we come to music, I know that in Sweden, you know that we have ABBA. Unfortunately, one of our biggest artists died last week in Avicii. He's also Swedish. But it's not only about that. The creative industry is much deeper than that, exactly like we have an example from you. But if I make a small survey now and make it a little bit interactive, how many of you in the audience and by others, how many does have Spotify or heard about Spotify and have it in their phone or in your computer? I think it's a lot of people. Spotify is Swedish, even though when it was brought up on the New York Stock Exchange 1 month ago, it was the Swiss flag, but in US they're not so good in European geography. But anyhow, that is one example. Then we come to another example for design, for example. How many have something from IKEA at home? I think it's pretty many. I think it's very many who have it. That is also a Swedish brand. And that is something that actually are influencing, and it's making an impact. And it's not built up by borders, it is by sharing and understanding in that way. And then we take another example, since creative industries is very wide. and that's why we have, for example, something called the gaming industry or the gambling industry. I can promise you that if you look around and you see everywhere someone is playing a game, for example, called Candy Crush, that is also Swedish. And I will come back to why I take these examples, why it's working in this way. And it's likewise if you are going for some gambling on the internet or something, the software behind it is also most likely Swedish. And I will wrap it up why I take up these examples at the end, because for creating these kind of things and making this creative industry, you need to have certain things that actually are working. And that's why now we are talking about this, how to inspire development. And then if we take it from a state and a local authority or a public authority perspective, then you actually need to have some things working for getting this. First of all, we need best practice, we need good examples, and those who actually can facilitate and network people together, that is us who work for public authorities, for example, who can actually make different networks. We can make a network, for example, that I'm representing in the gastronomy, Culinary Heritage Europe. We are gathering a lot of businesses for sharing practices between countries, learn good practice, and so on. That's why knowledge and education is very important. If you have those basic things, then you can create something deeper and you can go back to something. And then for doing that, we need to allocate resources. And for allocating resources for that, that can be, for example, that you have a place where you can make your music. You can have a place where you can try out your recipes. You have a possibility for buying your restaurant, and so on and so on. Then we come down to the next step that actually is service and management, and that can be very wide because you can have service and management. For example, in the gastronomy industry, it's very important. You will always remember the place, the restaurant you were going to, if you had a big smile. If you have a big smile, then you will remember it in a good way. If it was a grumpy waiter or the taxi driver was grumpy or something like that, no, that is not for me. I will not recommend it to my friends to go to whichever town it is. Now we come to one of the important things, and that is actually economy. Because behind all these kind of creative industry, for them to start up, you actually need to have stable economy from the beginning. And there it comes in a lot with taxes, how we are funding these kind of things. And that's why we are actually in Sweden pretty proud to be able to say that, yes, we have one of the highest taxes in the world. But we have that for a reason, actually. We have those taxes for the meaning that we want everybody to have their possibility share of it, and we need to sponsor it in some way. That was why it was very interesting yesterday to hear a lot of these conversations in other panels about this with subsidiaries and EU funding and so on and so on. The main thing is actually that we need to be able to make our own, build up our own economy from the beginning. And that is how these kind of things like creative industry is so important. For example, if we speak about taxes in Sweden, they are usually high. But for creative industry, we have different levels of VAT, value added tax. And that means actually that the state can pinpoint out areas that needs to be more sponsored by the rest of the community. For example, the normal value added tax in Sweden put on all services is 25%. But within culture, for example, there you have value added tax on some occasions 0%, 6%. For example, if you go to a restaurant, then it's 12%. And that is that you are actually making a motor, an economical motor for different levels. So, for wrapping everything up in this, to make a small conclusion of why creative industries can grow and why they can make an impact, not only within a country, but for the rest of the world, and especially Europe. to create this creativity, you actually need to have a pretty relaxed environment. And that's why I think Sweden have become pretty high up on the agenda, that we can actually recognize a lot of things when it comes to the creative industry. Because we have been lucky enough to have this multicultural environment actually. Plus we have been sacred from war and other things, and we have been able to build up our economy. So it was deep.
Oh yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Niklas, it's very easy to be pronounced, so Niklas, I'm sure it's okay. So in order to create creativity, you need a relaxed environment. We have to come back to this statement maybe, or maybe you could elaborate a bit now.
Even though one of the biggest, and when you're making something special, that also can come under hardship. When you are having a tough time, then you can get the best ideas and so on. But anyhow, it is very important that you in some way have this relaxed environment, yes.
Okay, but now we are under the pressure of time, so...
Today, I'm sorry, I think I'm the only one who has not the most creative presentation, because I use a template of the